Good afternoon. Welcome to the webinar on my research journey through polymer to solid state NMR spectroscopy, organized by Department of Chemistry, St. Mary's College, Thrissur, Kerala. We are honored to have with us Dr. Jisha Elizabeth Lukachan, Lecturer of Chemistry, College of Arts and Science, Khalifa University of Science and Technology, Abu Dhabi, UAE. She is an eminent academician and researcher with expertise in polymer chemistry and analytical chemistry. After completing her PhD from Cochin University of Science and Technology, she went on to do postdoctoral work from the Petroleum Institute, currently known as Khalifa University. Her research interests are on polymer nanocomposites, anti-corrosion coating research, NMR study of polymers and inorganic materials, etc. She is the author of 18 peer-reviewed journal papers, 11 conference papers, 5 book chapters, and has a patent in her name. It's an honor to have you with us, Dr. Jisha, and we are proud of the fact that you are our alumna. May I welcome our beloved principal, Dr. Sister Maggie Jose, to this gathering. Dr. Sister Maggie Jose, a researcher and an academician, is our motivation for organizing this webinar. I welcome you once again, dear sister. I also welcome all researchers, faculty members, and students from institutions throughout India who have graced us with their presence. I now invite our principal to deliver the presidential address.
Good afternoon to all. This is the Platinum Jubilee year of the foundation of our college, and to commemorate it, a series of seminars in different fields is being organized. I congratulate the Department of Chemistry for organizing this international webinar on polymers to solid state NMR spectroscopy. Research is what propels humanity forward, and research in turn is fueled by curiosity. This has led to development in different fields, and the current advances in science and technology are the fruits of previous research. In this age, where active learning and research is essential to development, these type of webinars allow established and active researchers to interact with other researchers and aspiring students. The exchange of ideas and dissemination of knowledge act as impetus to growth. Hope this session will be a fruitful, interactive, and encourages our youngsters to pursue research. I take this opportunity to once again welcome our eminent resource person, Dr. Jisha, to our midst. Hearty welcome, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, sister, for your encouraging words. Before starting the session, a gentle reminder to all the participants. If you have any question during the presentation, please type them into the chat box. We will have an interactive session at the end. I also request all the participants to mute your mic during the session. Now, I invite Dr. Jisha Elizabeth to handle the technical session.
Thank you, Dr. Sister Margaret and Dr. Geeta for the nice words. First of all, I would like to express my sincere gratitude for inviting me for this seminar. Actually, it is my pleasure to become a part of the Platinum Jubilee programs of my old college. I'm passed out from St. Mary's College on 1994 pre-degree batch. And I'm taking this opportunity to congratulate the college for its Platinum Jubilee celebrations. And coming to my presentation, I have included few of my works conducted during my PhD time, as well as during my postdoc positions. So without any further ado, let's begin my presentation. I think I can share my presentation slides. Just wait. Okay, just let me know it's clear to everyone.
Yes, ma'am. It is clear.
Yeah. So I already explained my presentation include few of my works that I have conducted during my PhD time, as well as during my postdoc position. So the presentation include my research journey through polymers to solid state NMR spectroscopy. A small self-introduction is given as a first slide. After completing my master's in pure chemistry from Sacred College, Tevra, I joined to NIST Trivandrum. This is a CSIR research center where I had completed all my PhD thesis works. And in 2008, I received the PhD from the CUSAT. After that, I joined to one of the engineering college in Kerala as a senior lecturer of the chemistry department. From there, I moved to the Petroleum Institute. Now it is changed to Khalifa University of Science and Technology as a postdoctoral fellow of the Chemical Engineering Department. And from 2010 to 2019, I have been involved in 3 different projects from oil and gas sectors. From spring 2020 onwards, I moved to Chemistry Department of the Khalifa University as a lecturer. Along with that one, I'm assigned as the instructor of NMR spectroscopy. Polymers. I think everyone is familiar with this word polymer. My question is, what is a polymer? And what is the difference between a polymer molecule and the normal molecules? As a definition, polymers are the large molecular weight molecules which are formed by the joining of small repeating units called monomers. Here you can see the small green circles. This is considered as a monomer. And these monomers joined by chemical bond, it's formed a long chain, high molecular weight molecules that is polymer. The best example given here is a polyethylene. Here, ethylene is the monomer, and these ethylene molecules joined together, they formed a polyethylene chain, high molecular weight polymers. And this particular reaction is called polymerization. The property of ethylene, we know this is a gas molecule, but these hundreds or thousands or millions of these gas molecules joined together, it's formed a polymer, polyethylene. We couldn't imagine what is the properties the polyethylene has. It's a wide variety of properties. Just a minute. Yeah. The few of the properties I have given here, they are light in weight, the moisture resistant, mechanical strength, very good mechanical and tensile strength, and there's a good insulator. Because of this is the beauty of the polymers, really. The small molecules that doesn't have any of these properties, but they combine together, they formed a polymer. They have an advanced wide variety of properties. Because of these properties, polymers are nowadays is used in every field. If you look on your surroundings, you can see the materials made out from the polymer. So we couldn't imagine a life without a polymer actually. But if they have such a good properties, but there is a one drawback in the polymers, that is their non-biodegradability, especially the plastic material. You know this, what is the term plastics? Generally, we are not using the word polymer. We use the plastic cup, plastic chair, or plastic material. So plastics are also polymers, but mainly they are the synthetic polymers, man-made polymers like polyethylene, polypropylene, PVC, all this comes under the plastics. And these plastic materials have this main drawback of non-biodegradability. So what is biodegradability, or what is biodegradable polymer? Biodegradable polymers means this is a special type of polymer that after their use or intended purpose, they break down into its small molecules like water, carbon dioxide, biomass, or inorganic salts. So this is occurred either by microbial decomposition process or enzymatic decomposition process. So such polymers, they won't make any environmental issues. And those polymers, they have the hydrolyzable linkages like ester, amide, or either along the chain, or they have easily oxidizable functional groups on the chain. They are susceptible to biodegradation. But coming to our commodity plastics like polyethylene, polypropylene, that polymers doesn't contain any of these hydrolyzable linkages. They're purely carbon-hydrogen bonds. Such polymers are highly hydrophobic and they won't degrade. So they are making issues to the environment. But how severe this environmental issue, that based upon their structure and shape. For example, consider a plastic chair and a plastic carrying bag. Plastic chair, after its use, if you want to dispose, you can take it out and you can recycle it. So such material is not making much issues to the environment. But the carrying bag, the plastic covers, they are very light in weight, very thin. So that type of materials make the environmental issues. So polyethylene is the polymer commonly used for this carrying bag, plastic cover synthesis. So because of this reason of non-biodegradability, I tried in my PhD work to find a solution for the non-biodegradability of polyethylene type polymers. What I have done is I modified the polyethylene by grafting highly hydrophilic molecules like glucose by melt-phase reaction using steric ammonium nitrate. So this glucose is a hydrophilic, so they are the good nutrient for the microorganisms. So now my product is sugar grafted polyethylene. So during the microbial oxidation, microbes consumes the sugar and it is slowly start the oxidation at the chain end. Now the carbonyl group is oxidized to carboxylic acid, leaving behind a hydroxyl terminated polyethylene. So this polyethylene further degradation is taking place through beta oxidation process. It is reported in the literature that in the normal circumstances, polyethylene degradation is taking hundreds of years. But by this method, what we have done, we created some active sites for the microbial oxidation. So the degradation process of polyethylene initiates at early stages. Now the question is how we can detect. Okay, I explained the microbial oxidation is occurred and all these steps is explained, but how to come this point? The best tool is FTIR spectroscopy. IR means infrared spectroscopy, that is a vibrational spectroscopy. So this is a basic tool used in every research labs to identify the structure of a material. So here is given the IR spectra, you can see the several signals and each signal is correspond to the vibrational frequency of a functional group or chemical bond. For example, here the carbonyl bond 17-19 centimeter inverse 1, that is correspond to the C double bond or stretching vibrations. And you can see a very broad peak around 3500 centimeter inverse 1, that is correspond to hydroxyl functional group or OH stretching vibration. Similarly, each peak is correspond to the vibrational frequencies of chemical bond. So from FTIR, by looking on the spectra, so you can identify what are the different functional groups or bond is present in your material. So come to our question problem. So I done the IR of the sugar grafted polyethylene before microbial oxidation and after microbial oxidation. If you look on the carbonyl peak, after microbial oxidation, that carbonyl peak at a 17-19 centimeter inverse 1, that's significantly reduced. This is clearly confirming that microbial oxidation is already started on the polymer chain. In another part of my work, I tried to make some copolymers. What is copolymer? So what is the advantage of copolymers? Copolymer also is a polymer, but that formed from more than one type of monomer. I explained the first slide, monomer is the building unit of polymer. So for the copolymers, we are using two or more different types of monomers. So what is the advantage of copolymer? Whatever the limitations of a homopolymer, that we can minimize or we can get a polymer having good properties, better properties. That is the advantage of this copolymerization reaction of copolymers. So in this work, I try to make the copolymers out from the polylactide. Polylactide is considered as a very versatile material among biodegradable polymers because it have an inherent biodegradability and they are biocompatible, and it can be easily available from the renewable resources. But the polylactides, the degradation rate is very slow and their cost of production also very high. Because of this reason, mainly polylactides are used in biomedical and pharmaceutical fields. But these limitations we can minimize by copolymerization reaction. Therefore, I tried to synthesize a multi-block polyester amide, a random multi-block polyester amide from polylactide. So this is a polymer chain, a copolymer chain. If you look on, you can see like polyamide segment is there, polyester segment is there. So it is giving a better properties. Another work I tried is a chitosan oligoelactide graft copolymers. Here, oligolactides is grafted onto chitosan. Chitosan is a naturally available aminopolysaccharide. So these works I done on the PhD, my thesis works. Another area where polymers are widely used is the coating industry. The properties of polymer to form uniform thin film and their good adhesion strength made them as a best material to provide the corrosion protection of the metallic structures. Before going to the polymer coatings, we should know what is the reaction behind the corrosion. Corrosion is an electrochemical reaction, and for an electrochemical reaction or corrosion to be taken place, it's required 4 elements: anode, cathode, metallic conductor, electrolytic conductor. And I'm just given here a small description of the mechanism of ion corrosion. So iron plate, it's above the iron plate, there is a water droplet. So anode is the area where iron is oxidizing. So these released electrons that move through the metal, that is a metallic conductor, and it is reached the cathodic part of the same metal. At the cathodic part, water and oxygen that absorbs those electrons and form hydroxide ions. This iron 2 plus and hydroxide ion form that passes through the electrolyte. Electrolyte in this case is a water droplet, and they combine form the corrosion product. If any of these 4 elements is absent, corrosion reaction won't occur. Here comes the role of polymer. What the polymers are doing? We are making a very uniform defect-free coating on the metal surface, and these polymers strongly adhere to the metal surfaces. So they are like a barrier. Barrier means they prevent the metal from comes in contact with the atmosphere. So it's giving a very good protection. So polymers are creating a passive barrier between metal and aggressive environment, and it's provide resistance to flow of electronic and ionic charges. This is a reason the polymer coatings are widely used, especially in the oil and gas sectors. They're using multi-layer coatings of polymer, the primer, middle layer, top layer. So multi-layer polymer coatings are using. But there is a drawback for this polymer coating. What is that? During this continuous exposure to the environment or the natural aging of the polymer, or the polymer comes in contact with the UV light, temperature, mechanical stress, or any other environmental conditions, there is a chance to form micro or nano cracks or pores. These defects, human eyes, we couldn't detect. But when such a defect is formed, these corrosive agents passes through these defects and reach the metal surface beneath the coating, and corrosion starts. Once corrosion starts, these polymer coatings are not more able to give any protection. Slowly the corrosion will propagate and it is passed through the metal surface. After some point, this coating starts to peel out. At that point only we came to know that, okay, the corrosion is already started and it is spread everywhere in the metal. You can see this image. This is a tank. The tank is severely corroded once they remove these coatings. So how we can solve this issue? The existing solution is self-healing polymer coatings. What is self-healing? Self-healing means when a polymer is formed in a crack or any defect, this polymer itself will seal that one. or it reconstruct the mechanical integrity of the polymer. Or when a corrosion is started on the metal surface, the polymer coating provided some technique and stop the corrosion or reduce or diminish the corrosion process. Such type of coatings are called self-healing polymer coatings. Normally, self-healing polymer coatings we can synthesize by adding some additives to the existing polymer coatings. First, one of the additive is the conducting polymer. Conductive polymer, polyaniline or polypyrrole, these are the commonly used conducting polymers. Polypyrrole, I have just given one example for the polypyrrole. Polypyrrole in the reduced form, that means in the neutral form, it is a good insulator. It won't conduct it is a very good insulator. But in the oxidized form, it is like a metal. It's a good conductor. So what we are doing, we purposefully oxidize the polypyrrole using a suitable dopant anion. And how it is giving the protection that I will explain in another slide. Just understand this oxidized polypyrrole with a suitable dopant is a good corrosion inhibitor. Another technique commonly used, very commonly used in the oil and gas sectors is mix the polymer coatings with the corrosion inhibitors like chromates, nitrates, zinc or vanadides, all these good. But here another drawback is that these corrosion inhibitors, they will react with the polymer coatings and it will destroy the integrity of the coating. Or these corrosion inhibitors leach out from the coatings and make the environmental problems, especially these chromates. Chromates are very good inhibitor, but they are carcinogenic. So in this case, what we are doing, we used some carriers, nano or micro carriers or containers of corrosion inhibitor. Here showing the picture, the polymer coating is mixed with this container carrier. So this nano container contains the corrosion inhibitor, and these containers are sensitive to pH change. When a corrosion occurs on the metal surface, the pH of the local area will change. So these containers become more active and they will open up, they release the corrosion inhibitor, stop the corrosion. So this is another method. So based upon all these literature ideas, we prepared some coatings. By adding a conducting polymer, here the polymer matrix is polyvinyl butyryl and conducting polymer is the polypyrrole. So we synthesized 3 formulations by changing the conducting polymer composition, and all 3 compositions were dip coated. This is the dip coater used onto the carbon steel 5 by 2 by 2 centimeter in size. So dip coater is the technique. This is a very useful. You can control the thickness and a uniform coating. Now, how we can monitor the coating performances? Coating performances we can analyze either qualitative techniques or quantitative analysis. Quantitative methods is an electrochemical, because corrosion is an electrochemical process. So it's a electrochemical techniques using potentiostat. The very basic technique is open circuit potential. What is open circuit potential? It's nothing. When a metal comes in contact with any electrolyte or any solvent, the metal starts a potential, develop a potential. That is a corrosion potential. So that potential we can directly measure using the potentiostat. That is the open circuit potential. Electrochemical impedance spectroscopy. This is a little bit complicated technique, but this is the best technique you can analyze the performance of a coating. Then potential dynamic polarization, Tafel plots. Tafel plots is a corrosion current versus potential. Corrosion current versus corrosion potential and corrosion rate. All these points you can get from the Tafel plots. Qualitative analysis, weight loss of the substrate, images, optical images or microscopic images or spectroscopic techniques also you can use to identify the structure of the corrosion products. So coming to my sample, polyvinyl butyryl with the polypyrrole coatings. So I use this open circuit potential. I measured the open circuit potential of the coatings So what I have done is I prepared the 3 coatings along with a pure PVB coating, and all 4 coatings is immersed in 4 weight percentage sodium chloride solution and continuously measured open circuit potential over 40 hours. So if you look on here, this y-axis is the open circuit potential and x-axis is the time of immersion. If you look on this diagram, you can see how the polymer is giving the protection. Corrosion potential of iron is minus 0.6 volt. This is fixed. Corrosion potential of iron is minus 0.6 volt. And but by application of the polymer, the potential is moved to nearly 0.1 volt. That means this PVB coating is giving a very good protection. But this is a barrier protection, simple barrier. If any defect occur on the polymer coating, therefore is no more protection. So till 30 hours, it's given the protection. But after that, there is a sudden decrease and it is reached to minus 0.6. After that, you can see the potential is no more increasing. So there is nothing, no more protection. So corrosion of metal is started. Coming to the coatings containing conducting polymer, especially the conducting polymer 20%. Here also, the potential is slowly decreasing. But after some point, you can see the potential is moving up and retain its initial potential. This is the behavior of self-healing coatings. So what happened in this case, when this coating immersed in the 4 weight percentage sodium chloride solution, some defects or water ingression or something happened on the coating. But self-healing coatings that retained or they healed that defects and retained its protection to its initial value. This is the self-healing coatings. Coming to the Tafel plot, this is the Tafel plot. It's a log corrosion current versus corrosion potential. So here also you can see the corrosion potential of the conducting polymer coating is towards the positive side than the pure PVB coating. Yeah, how this corrosion, this conducting polymer is giving protection, the mechanism, just given a mechanism. Here what happened when iron oxidizes from iron 2+, it releases the electron. This electron is accepted by the conducting polymer. That means conducting polymer is reduced. When it is reduced, it releases the dopant anion. X- is a dopant anion. In this case, it's used organic sulfonic acid. This dopant anion is released. This dopant anion combines with the Fe2+ ions and form a passive film. This passive film is a hydrophobic and it's a very thick film, so it won't allow any electrolyte to move further. So this is the mechanism of conducting polymer protection. So now we used some microscopic and spectroscopic techniques to find out this self-healing behavior. So you can see the coatings. This is the pure PVB coating. And if you look clearly, you can see there is a cross cut. What is the purpose of this cross cut? We want to analyze these corrosion reactions within a short time. Otherwise, what happened? We have to wait for a long time. So that's why we purposefully made some defects on the coating using surgical blade. And this is the conducting polymer coating. There also we made a cross cut. Both coatings is immersed in 4 weight percentage sodium chloride solution. And after 7 days, pure PVB coating is analyzed for the optical images. Optical images is showing this cross defect area, some products is formed. Similarly, conducting polymer coating also, after 3 days, we taken this out and optical images showing this scratch is almost covered. Now, we have to find out what is this product formed on this cut. For that one, we went for the scanning electron microscopy, microscopic images. Microscopic images clearly showing the products on the scratch of the pure polymer coating. But the scratch of the conducting polymer coating, you can see a very thick precipitate. So what is the nature of this precipitate? That for that one, we went for spectroscopic technique, that is Raman spectra. Raman spectra shows corrosion product, Fe3O4, that is the corrosion product. But coming to conducting polymer coating, you can see there is no more Fe3O4 peak, but is showing a new peak that correspond to O double bond S stretching vibration. So this O double bond S is coming from the dopant anion of the conducting polymer, organic sulfonic acid. So this is the way we can analyze whether our coating is giving a self-healing protection. Another technique we tried to prepare self-healing coatings is nano container immersed polymer coating. Nano container, I already explained. Nano container means corrosion inhibitor encapsulated containers. For these purposes, normally we using porous materials, porous silica. In this case, I used mesoporous carbon. So mesoporous carbon dispersed in water, and we added the benzotriazole. Benzotriazole is a corrosion inhibitor, and we applied some vacuum. So by giving the vacuum, we remove the air trapped inside the pores of the mesoporous carbon, and that pores is filled now with benzotriazole. So pores is now covered. We have to cover it, close it. So we close the pores with a polyelectrolyte, polyallylamine hydrochloride. So this is the nano container. So this container is mixed with a polymer coating. Polymer coating, we used vinyl acrylate. So if you look on here, this is again nano container immersed polymer coating. So this is a pure vinyl acrylate coating. This is a nano container containing coating. You can see the difference. This is a severe corrosion is occurred on the defects, but here the corrosion you can see only at the center. Rest of the part is almost nothing happened. Center is, of course, because when you've done this cross cutting, center area always the scratch is bigger in size. Nano containers, the purpose of the nano containers, I explained in the beginning slide, this micro or nano cracks formed. That point, this nano containers will be active and stop the corrosion. If the crack is big in size, nano containers it won't be that much effective. That's the reason. So the performance of the coating that we analyzed using electrochemical impedance spectroscopy, EIS. EIS spectra we can plot in two methods, Baud plot and Nyquist plot. I'm given here the Baud plot. This is a little bit complicated, but if you look on the Baud plot, the first thing you can understand is impedance. This Y1 axis is the impedance. Whether if you look impedance, what is impedance? Impedance means resistance. Resistance that giving the coating towards the corrosion reaction. So the impedance of the pure vinyl coating is continuously decreased. But in the case of nano container coating, it decreased till 9 days, but after that it started to increase. So this is the behavior of the self-healing coating. What is the meaning? Coating is now giving it decreased. Decreased means might be this is electrolyte ingress is there through the coating. That's the reason it's decreased. But after some point it started to increase. That means its coating is retained. It's a integrity or it's anti-corrosion behavior. So this to get a complete idea about what happened on these coatings, we can model these Baud plots using an equivalent circuit. This is an equivalent circuit used to model this Baud plot. Here, RS means the solution, resistance, solution resistance, and there is two circuits, they are connected parallel. The first circuit, QC and RP is correspond to the polymer coating. QDL and RCT is correspond to the corrosion on the metal surface. So solution, then coating, then metal. In the same way, we applied this. And a best parameters of this modeling is given in the table. And from here, you will get the idea about what is the resistance of the coating, what is the capacitance of the coating, and whether any RCT, charge transfer resistance, that is corrosion resistance, is providing. All these informations you can get from this modeling of EIS plot. Yes. So So we have conducted many works on this. I just shown few of among them, but we conducted many of works on the polymer coatings, polymer nanocomposites, polymer blends. But what we understand that in order to get or find out the best properties or best or tailor-made applications of the polymer, the one thing is like we should know what happened on the polymer backbone or the microstructural changes occurred on the polymer. For that tool is solid state NMR spectroscopy. So NMR spectroscopy that gives or we can characterize the molecular structure, conformation or dynamics of a polymer change. Not only the polymer, any particles, organic or inorganic, any material, nuclear NMR is the best technique to characterize in the microscopic stage. In this slide. In NMR, we are analyzing single nuclei like hydrogen NMR, carbon NMR, C13 NMR, nitrogen NMR. Similarly, each single nuclei we are analyzing in NMR. Again, you're familiar with the spin quantum number. So those nuclei which have a spin quantum number greater than 0 is NMR active. For example, C13. C13, the spin quantum number is half. Therefore, it's a NMR active. You can detect C13 nuclei in NMR. But carbon-12, the spin quantum number is 0. So you couldn't detect carbon-12 in the NMR spectroscopy. So this is considered this ball with this arrow. This is, you can consider a single nuclei with the spin half. The best example is hydrogen nuclei. Since hydrogen is a positively charged nuclei and we know hydrogen is rotating its own axis. Any charged particle, and if it is rotating its own axis, it will create some magnetic field. And this angular momentum of this charged particle, because of magnetic field, means this acts like a small bar magnet. And the angular momentum of this small bar magnet is represented by magnetic momentum. Magnetic momentum is a vector quantity. That means it has direction and value. So this arrow is showing the direction of the magnetic momentum. So just understand, hydrogen nuclei, the spin is half. And hydrogen nucleus, because of its magnetic field, it acts like a small bar magnet. And it have a magnetic momentum. The magnetic momentum direction is showing in this arrow. This is a case of a single nuclei, but a molecule contains lot of hydrogen nuclei. For example, I'm given the spectra of the ethanol. Ethanol is contained 3 different type of hydrogen. This is a single molecule, but 1 mole of ethanol contains Avogadro number of molecule. That means that much number of hydrogen nuclei. And all hydrogen nuclei, the magnetic momentum is directing in whatever ways it likes. That is given in this black colored arrow balls. Their magnetic momentum is directing in everywhere, any direction. But when we insert this ethanol molecule into a NMR spectroscopy means NMR contain a very high, this is the NMR spectroscopy. We can insert the sample from the top, and here there is a very strong magnetic field. Because of the presence of this magnetic field, this hydrogen nuclei, I already explained, it acts like a small bar magnet. This magnetic moment will take 2 types of orientation. Few of them will be along with the magnetic field of the spectrometer. Few will be opposite to the direction of the magnetic field. And that means those along the magnetic field will be in the low energy. Those in the opposite to the magnetic field is high energy. That is given in this diagram here. Here B0 is 0. That means there is no magnetic field. Sample is outside the spectrometer. All the spins are in the same energy level. But when the sample inserted into a spectrometer, that means there is an external magnetic field is there. Therefore, the spins become a energy gap is created. That means those along to the magnetic field is low in energy, those opposite to the magnetic field is high in energy. So what we will do at this point, we will provide some radio frequency. So those spin that at the low energy state absorbs this energy and excited to high energy levels. And we stop the radio frequency. So this excited spin that release back, and they release, that process is called relaxation. So they release the amount of energy absorbed. So the delta E energy that is processed, and you will get the spectra. So this delta E energy that contain all the informations regarding your sample. For example, look, ethanol. Ethanol contains 3 different hydrogen. CH3, energy, CH3 is surrounding by only CH2. And CH2 is surrounded by both CH3 and OH. And OH is surrounded by only CH2. And the electronegativity, all these are the matter. Or we can say, based upon the environment, energy required for this excitation of each nuclei will be different. So if you look on here, the values is given in ppm. That is very small change. This is the beauty of NMR. NMR can detect a change in the ppm level. So you can see that there is 3 different signal change in ppm. So this is a very basic principle of NMR. Coming to our work, so we used C13CP mass NMR. CP mass means this is a particular technique, cross-polarization, magic angle spinning NMR experiments to find out what is the interaction or crystallization behavior of polymers in a binary or ternary blends. So this is a C13 NMR spectra of individual polymers, polycaprolactone, thermoplastic polymers, and polylactide. And the binary blend of PLA and PCl. If you look on the single PLA C13, you can see this is a multiplet system. What is the meaning of multiplets? Means this is a semi-crystalline, nature, showing the crystalline nature. But coming to the binary blend, look, there is no splitting. It's a single broad band. That means the binary blend PLA is existing in the amorphous form. But in the binary blend of PLA and TPS, look, PLA is retained its crystallinity, or it is more crystalline. So coming to the ternary blend of 3 different polymers. Amount of PCl, PLA is retained its crystallinity. So these points, crystallinity or interaction, all this we can determine from this NMR spectroscopy. And I tried to find out what is the reason for these changes in the binary blend. For that one, we went for the Raman spectra and the Raman mapping. The Raman mapping, this picture A is showing the PCl, pure PCl component distribution. Picture B shows the pure PLA component distribution. The picture C shows the binary molecule, PLA and PCl. If you look on this big picture, it is clear the PCl is not allowing the PLA to crystallize out from the melt. So I have been worked in another project where we use the solid state NMR spectroscopy to study the reason, to find out the reason for the activity loss of zeolite. Zeolite is an inorganic material used in the natural gas drying. So what is zeolite? Zeolite's a picture is given here just for your understanding. Zeolite is a 3-dimensional microporous crystalline solid. It's a well-defined structures that contain aluminum, silicon, and oxygen in the regular framework. So this is the molecular sieves that synthesized out from the zeolite, and these are used in the natural gas drying. So coming to this slide, you can see there's a very white fresh zeolite before using. Now after use means spent zeolite, that is after the purpose of use, natural gas, they become very black in color. So we use the solid state NMR to find out the reason, what is this black and what is the components comes in the black, and any structural change occur on the zeolite because of these processes. So that all informations you will get from the solid state NMR. So this is a solid state NMR of C13. From the C13, it is very clear this black is from the cork. And among the cork, it's contain aliphatic carbon, aromatic carbon also. Again, this is a aluminum NMR. Aluminum NMR is telling whether any framework, any changes happened on the zeolite. So you can see here, there is only one peak that is correspond to the framework zeolites, and here it is, there is two peaks. This is first one is correspond to extra framework. That means some defects is created on the aluminum structure. Silica NMR also we used to find out the changes. So yeah, this is my last slide. This is an institution where I'm working now. This is a Khalifa University. Khalifa University provides a College of Arts and Science, and College of Engineering, College of Medicine and Health Sciences. And we have 3 campuses. All 3 campuses have very good infrastructure for the research facilities. And Khalifa University is providing undergraduate programs, graduate programs, and PhD programs. And thank you everyone for listening my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And now the session is open for discussion. There are a few questions in our chat box. One question is from Gigi Abraham. The question is, can we use metal organic framework structures as nano containers in self-healing polymer coating?
First, nano containers, the main thing is like it should be a mesoporous structure. If the structure is a mesoporous and it can, the size is suitable to encapsulate the corrosion inhibitor which you are planning to use, then it's fine.
Okay, another question is from Meenal Batra. Can you explain a little bit more about self-healing polymers?
Self-healing polymers is actually, it's a very wide area. What I have given is a very small description. So can you just specify which area you want to get ideas?
Meenal madam, you can unmute and ask the question clearly. Meenal madam.
Hello.
Yes, it is audible.
Hello, good morning, ma'am. Very nice presentation. It's very informative. Actually, I want to know, I'm thinking to work on a supramolecular chemistry. So there are so many things about a healing polymer. So I just want some clarification from you about this.
Yes. Yeah, just can you just specify, because what part you want to know, like whether it's how to make the coating or whether the material properties? Can you
Yeah,
just
ma'am, how to
specify?
make a coating. Actually, this supramolecular coating is very, self-healing coating is very important, na? So how to make this coating? Have you tried this in your lab?
No, supramolecular mechanisms molecules I didn't try. I tried with these, what is called the particle coatings of this, either the silica, mesoporous silica or mesoporous carbon or graphene coatings, graphene nano containers. Then that I mixed with the polymer matrices. But what I can suggest to you is, if you're planning for a nano container type coatings, and if you're planning this material to use for as a preparation of the nano container, I already explained. The thing is like for this what is called the nano container, the thing is you either your material should be charged.
Okay.
The first one is it should be charged. In the case of silica, silica is a negatively charged. So we can add or incorporate this corrosion inhibitor inside the pores, or then we can cap it using the polyelectrolytes. Polyelectrolytes also charged polymers. So it needs some interaction. It's not like a chemical bond, it's a interaction.
Yeah.
That's why it's required some charge on the surface. Silica is negatively charged, and this graphene or carbon nanotubes also we tried, that also have some negative charge. Mesoporous carbon also we have negative charge. So that's the reason we tried that particular material. If the material is type, I don't think so. You can might be incorporate forcefully, but I don't
Okay.
think so with any covering. Covering is also important. Otherwise, this corrosion inhibitor can leach out from the pores.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Another
You're
question is
welcome.
from Rashid. Where is NMR facility in Kerala?
NMR facility in my center, the NIST. There when I done the PhD there, I know there is one liquid NMR is there, but solid state NMR VSSC Trivandrum. VSSC Trivandrum also they have one solid NMR, but now it's a long time. Might be any other center is solid NMR is available. That's I'm not sure. But these two centers, RR NIST Trivandrum have a liquid NMR and VSSC have a solid state NMR.
Okay, ma'am. Another question is from
And
Mujib.
NMR facility is available in many centers in India. I don't think this is a big problem. If you can contact because, but it's a chargeable. I think like per hour based, they are making some charges.
Yes. Another
ISC, Bangalore, everywhere.
Okay, ma'am. Another question is from Mujib. What is the interaction between polymer coating and metal surface?
Polymers, they have what I can tell like it's a adhesive nature. Like for example, this metal. Normally, that for example, epoxy coatings or any other coating, polyvinyl butyrate, that's the one we used. So there have some interaction between this metal ion and this structure of the polymers. There is a very strong adhesion strength. That is the reason they are using for this. That depends upon the polymer structure. Any type of interaction it can happen. Either this iron to metal, polymer backbone interaction or these hydroxyl groups interaction. That type of interaction also is possible.
I think all questions are answered. Now, I request all the participants to fill the feedback form, which is given in the chat box. Now, I invite Dr. Binsi to deliver vote of thanks.
I would like to extend our sincere gratitude to our resource person, Dr. Jisha Elizabeth, for the wonderful presentation. The session was highly informative and fruitful. Thank you very much, ma'am. Also, I would like to extend our gratitude to our principal, Dr. Sister Maggie Jo, for constant support throughout all our endeavors. I also extend thanks to all our faculty members for their constant support. Now I extend thanks to all our technical staff, especially Jyoti sir and Ranjit for their support in resolving technical issues. I also extend our sincere thanks to all our participants, including our dear students and well-wishers, to make this program a grand success. Once again, thank you all and thank you.
Madam, we are very thankful for
Yes.
an extremely fruitful and interactive session. And we are thankful that
Yeah.
you were here with us.
Yes, thank you. Actually, it was also for me. Also, it is what I can tell. Like I like this interaction. That's why things. Anyways, getting a call from my college where I studied. Actually, it is very. I'm also happy. Thanks for inviting me. That's the thing.
It's definitely a pleasure, madam. The pleasure is on our side. We are so proud that one of our alumni is in such a reputed institution, and it's our pleasure that you are a role model for all our students too. There are quite a few number of our students who are also watching this session, and when one of our alumni is the resource person, it's our pride.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Miss.
The session has come to an end.
Yeah.
I request the participants to fill up the feedback form if they have not done so. It is necessary for the certificate. And madam, thank you once again for this excellent presentation.
Thank you. So I can leave the session, yes?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.